What is up, Savages? Thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I hope everyone's doing great. I am doing all right. Thanks so much for asking. I am a little bit exhausted though. I didn't get my little nap in today, so I'm pretty tired. It'll probably show. I'm probably going to be a little bit low energy, lower than usual, I guess you could say. Tonight I'm going to review again a project that has consistently been asked about. I've been hit up on Twitter and direct messages and all kinds of stuff, always wanting me to look at Ryo. So we are going to continue. We're basically doing Ryo all week, and we're going to continue tonight with mining it on simple mining and probably using AMD and or NVIDIA GPUs on simple mining. I hooked up both rigs so we can do either or both. Probably just depends on how much time we have left and stuff like that. So that's going to be about it for the intro. Let's get into it. Alright, so before we get started, let's take a real quick look at what I am mining. I always like to show you guys what I'm mining. And I'm still mining CCX on my rig here at the house, on the AMD rig. On the NVIDIA rig, it's off right now because I have it set up for simple mining. It is off, but it's also not showing up in HiveOS either because it's actually running simple mining so that we can actually use it for tonight's stream to look at simple mining and mining Ryo on simple mining and NVIDIA GPUs. Not that it's so much different than AMD, but it's something that there's a little bit, if you're going to get into the tweaking part of it, there's a little bit of a difference, just like there is with HiveOS. So we'll get into that. But I'm still mining CCX over here. And as far as on the shared rigs, I am mining CCX as well. Although I was playing around with Mustafar because this rig right here, because I was looking at tonight's, what we were going to be going over tonight. So I thought it was going to be up by now. I don't know what's going on with it. We might have to change plans and actually use the other rig if this one doesn't come up. It looks like it might be coming up. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit. Let's see. I'm not really going to interact too much with the chat just yet because I want to get going on what we are, the content that we're looking at tonight. And let's start with, okay, so if you haven't watched, Monday night or Tuesday night, then this is your first show that you're watching about Ryo, me doing Ryo, then let's cover what Ryo actually is for a little bit here. Just real quick, I'll cover this. You guys know I'm a real big fan of privacy coins, and this one's actually quickly becoming one of my favorites, and that's no lie. I know I've covered all this information in the last 2 nights, but like I said, folks might be watching. This is their first video, so let me run through some of the Ryo basics real quick here. It's described as a Monero code fork that focuses on the highest levels of anonymity, using up to 100 ring signatures. 25 ring signatures is the current minimum. So you can see this in their wallet. If you go to their wallet, let me open this up here real quick. Cancel that. Give me just a second. Let me open this wallet back up. This is just a demo wallet, but still didn't want to have it all on the screen, all my password stuff. Okay, so this is, I was going to show you, if you try to send, you can see right here the ring size is 25 ring members by default, and then if you click the little down arrow, you can get to 100, right? So that's kind of neat, super private, so on and so forth, privacy coin type stuff there. An example of a ring signature, if you're not familiar with it, would be something like Alice sending Bob 100 Ryo, right? Alice has a digital signature attached to a one-time spend key, and then there's non-signers on the blockchain from past transactions outputs that are randomly selected from the blockchain to disguise this overall transaction, and that's talking about how many ring members there are. So, by default, if you have 25, then there's going to be 24 other addresses from the blockchain just randomly selected that are going to help mask this transaction from Alice to Bob. So all ring members look like signers to the network, but it's not really feasible to calculate who is the actual signer mathematically. All the outputs of the ring signature make up a single transaction, right? So just imagine, I think the graphics that they'll show you about ring signatures, it literally looks like a ring, and then your transaction that you're sending, your one valid transaction, goes into this ring of other transactions. I think it's kind of a good visual, I guess. But you might be saying, well, but Alice's public key is also used in this transaction. Wouldn't you be able to identify her through that public key? Well, not really, because if you remember, earlier on I described what happens to a valid transaction is it gets added into all these other, previous transactions with their public keys. So Alice's could, it'll look like it's been lumped in with all those other transactions. So it's basically just this ongoing thing where it's completely random, and it could use. Her signature could be used in many other secure transactions from other users, as I previously described. So, just having that public key is not going to be enough to actually identify her. So hopefully that just breaks down ring signatures. I know it's super basic. I mean, I'm not a super smart on that kind of stuff, but that's just a super simple breakdown of it. The Ryo devs have contributed quite a bit to the crypto space by developing XMR Stack. Let's see here. That's not it. That's not it either. That's not it. I had it up here earlier, and now I'm going to lose it. Anyway, okay, not a big deal. It's just that I was going to show you the link to the GitHub, I guess, for where it was. The XMR Stack miner. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Just a second. I actually had the link over there. And this is what they had. The devs for Ryo also developed the XMR Stack miner and the Kryptonite Heavy algorithm, which is an algorithm that some projects still use. Right now, I think it's only Ombre and one other obscure coin, if I remember right. So there's not very many coins out there that are actually using this still to this day. The core developers are FireIce UK, PsychoCrypt, and Mosu Forge. And there's a contributing team. One of those members is in here tonight. That's Ryo RU, or Ryo Ru, and Nostradamus 411. I think, I think Ryo Currency is what his name is in here in the chat, and he's talking all things Ryo over there. I can see, so that is cool. Just a side note worth mentioning: Ryo is a continuation of the original Sumo coin chain. After Sumo hard forked back to ASIC back in June of 2018, but now Sumo is back on Kryptonite R, which is why they show up now whenever you go to what to mine. Instead of having to go to ASICs like you used to, you can actually go back to GPU, and they will Sumo coin will show up in here as well. Somewhere there it is. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's check out coin market cap real quick for Ryo. See what's going on over here. See if the Savage bump is still going. It looks like it is. And if you compare this to what else is going on in the market, good grief, that's the 8% up is pretty good for today. I know it's low volume and stuff, but wow, things are getting whacked. Even if you compare it to BTC, there's a few that are standing out, but not much. Yeah, wow. Not a great day for the market at all, but I mean, we're down a lot market cap wise. We're down a lot in volume. BTC dominance is still up above 68, so it's kind of expected for what's going on out there. And then whenever you're doing what to mine, make sure that you choose CN GPU, because if you don't choose this, it's not going to, Ryo won't show up in the list. So tonight we're going to be using the Mustafar rig, which is an 8X 580. So I'm going to leave CN GPU selected there. I'm going to leave my power, actually my power is set to basically 7 cents. It's actually more like 12. So I'll just put 10 in there to give it an average 10 cents. And then we'll go calculate, and then we'll see where Ryo falls here. It's a little ways down there. Slightly under, slightly at a loss each day, but again, I have to reiterate this. If this really doesn't matter that much if you're not cashing in and having to pay overhead and all that stuff each day. So if you look right here, this is what, if I'm spec mining, this is what I'm looking at, is how many I'm going to accumulate each day with my hash rate. And then another thing that's weird right now with Ryo on what to mine is this algorithm is tough. It must be tough for them to calculate or something, because, and not only that, but we've got some optimizations going on thanks to Ryo RU, or Ryo Currency, in the chat there. He's doing a lot of testing and a lot of great things with figuring out settings that are optimized. So this is actually probably wrong, probably pretty far off. Because if you go back up here and look at the rig and what it thinks it's going to be getting, it says right here that it's only going to be getting 2200, and that's way lower than it's going to get. And we'll see that. We'll come back to this at the end so that we can kind of verify what's going on there. We can kind of compare what we're getting with what it's actually showing right here. So yeah, but I'm more concerned about the rewards, how many per day, and what I think it's going to be worth in the future. Those are the important aspects of it. So last night we mined Ryo on NVIDIA GPUs and HiveOS. That was this video right here. And I told you last night that this is a pretty intense project, and I'm still trying to learn all the little details and stuff. I have to give a shout out again to Ryo RU. He's helping me even a little bit more today, so I really appreciate that. He's a lot of help. So hit him up, give him something to do. And it's like super early in the morning where he's at. So yeah, he's a trooper for being in here and trying to help out. As far as the mining and blockchain specs goes, let's look at their website here. I think it's a little ways down here. Technical specs. Originally, they used the Kryptonite Heavy algorithm, like I was saying earlier, but they recently changed to the new algo that we've been talking about, which is Kryptonite GPU, and that is an FPGA ASIC botnet resistant algorithm. And the really cool thing about this algo is that it works well on old and new NVIDIA and AMD GPUs. It's almost identical type performance on across the board, no matter what your actual manufacturer is. So it's really neat. So it's almost equal even with low amounts of memory, because it uses universal floating point math, which is not really typical for what we're used to from mining, hashing algorithms and stuff. So even if you have it doesn't use memory. So even if you have really low memory GPUs, like a 3 gig NVIDIA GPU, you can throw it at Ryo and it'll eat it up. So you can point all that old hardware at Ryo. The hash rate is tied to the actual power of the GPU and its core instead of the memory, like most algorithms. Most algorithms go up into the memory and they use a lot of the memory, and you could hack it, hack the GPU memory in order to optimize it for specific, algorithms or specific coins. So you can't really do that with this algorithm because, it doesn't use the memory, so it only uses the core. So it's kind of neat. It's important to note, though, that if you don't tune the clocks and the power correctly, that it can run away from you and consume a large amount of power. So just keep that in mind as you're doing your tuning, that you can actually have it set to a way, and I've experienced this, you can have it set to a way that looks fine, but it will run away and start running hot and consume lots of power. So just keep that in mind. And Ryo also has these guides on Reddit that can help with all this. I'm gonna bring one of them up here. This one is for AMD. I showed these last night as well. I don't know, man. I don't know if I posted these links in. I think I did. I think I did post the links in the video. But if you go to, I'll post them again. I'll try to remember if I didn't. But you can look in this other video here. I believe that they're in this one. Let's find out real quick. Yeah, right here. So right here are the links to what I'm going to right now, so it can help you out. So for AMD, you can see he goes all the way back to really old AMD cards. And if there's a reference link over here, it's got like a little link. It'll have a number with a line under it, underlined number, 1 or 2, 1, 2 or 3 or whatever. It depends on how many there are. But you can click on that, and it'll take you to even more information. This is kind of like, hey, this is what your settings should be, and it gets all the way down into, in this case, it's AMD, so it's intensity, work size, mem chunk, and threads per GPU, and that's in your AMD.txt configuration file for XMR stack, right, for that miner. So just this is where you would pull that information from, and we've already done all that. We did all that last night as well. But if you click on the little reference link, it takes you to a nice infographic here that shows you basically your optimized, or what your best setting is for hashes per watt. So it's kind of based on this column over here where you can see hashes per watt. So it looks like for an RX 580, which we'll be using tonight, he says to put 775 to 787 for the millivolts, 1100 for the core, and then just 1000 for the memory, and that should get you about 12.54 hashes per watt. But what I experienced earlier is I think that simple mining actually has a minimum of 800, so I had to put it at 800 before it would even fire up. So this is going to depend on your actual mining software as well. So just keep that in mind. That is the NVIDIA one, or I'm sorry, the AMD one. And then the NVIDIA one, he's working on that as well. It's pretty close to the same thing as far as what it looks like. It's organized in the same way. So you have the reference links here, you have performance, hashes per watt, and how it lays out. And then in this case, the config is, let's see, it's T threads. I'm not going to be able to remember this. B is blocks, I think. B factor and B sleep, I think, is what those are. So, you can see it in the config file, in the NVIDIA.txt config file. They'll be in there whenever we get to that point. So you can also click on the links here. We could use a 1070 tonight. So we could click on the reference link here. Takes us to a nice infographic that shows, optimized settings here. So that is really cool stuff. He's working hard on that stuff. So that is super cool. Now, as far as mining and blockchain specs, they have a 240 second block time, which is 4 minutes. And if you go to what to mine, you can kind of see this. I think if you look up Ryo, it'll tell you. I'm just going to coins and then Ryo here. It'll tell you what see, like last night it was like 4 minutes and 5 seconds or 6 seconds or something. So right now it's 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And the difficulty adjusts each block. There's a current block reward of 56.28, and that changes every 6 months. It adjusts. I think the block reward is considered a plateau, I think is how they call it. So if you come over here to the FAQ and then look at plateau distribution block rewards, it looks like this. So it stays the same for 6 months and then it drops a little bit. I don't know, where are we at in this? I don't even know. We're somewhere over here, right? Yeah, so right here is 2020. So we're actually going up. So from here for a while until it looks like 20, at least at the end of, so we must be right here right now. So it's going to go up again through 2020. It looks like, is this 6 months or is that a year? That looks like a whole year right there. I don't know. So anyway, maybe even more. I don't know. If this is 6 months, I don't know how that works. This is a huge scale, I guess. But all right. So anyway, over time it will decrease, but I think each one of these steps, each one of these sections is 6 months. So this looks like 2 right here. So I don't know if maybe it stays the same for a whole year. Maybe, I don't know. And they also have the emission. I'll put that up there real quick. They have 88,188,888 coins in 20 years. There's an 8 million dev fund that's emitted over 6 years. And I just showed you the plateau emission, block reward, and all that stuff. So that's cool. Just a little bit of information about the mining aspect of Ryo. So now, let me check the chat real quick, see what you guys are up to. What is up, Red Panda, Crypto Sweeper? What's up, man? Board Alchemist. Who else we got in here? Bitcoin Jake, what's up, man? Shuby still in here. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for showing up and hanging out. I appreciate it. All right, so let's look at simple mining. And this video is not about how to get simple mining up and running. This is once you already have your rig showing up in simple mining and you want to configure it to Mine Ryo. And so the first thing we will do is go to group config. I already have some created for Ryo, but we are going to go through the steps and just do it from the very beginning so that we can make a brand new one. So we're going to click add group. We're going to use XMR Stack. Why wouldn't we? Since XMR Stack was developed by the same developers as Ryo. So there you go. And then in my case, we're going to be using I'm going to be using CUDA 9.1. I don't know if I have to use that or for AMD. I'm going to use it for both. I'll just use this one just because I want to use, we might do the NVIDIA as well. So for group name, we'll give it a name of Ryo. YouTube sounds great to me. And actually, let's put AMD in here too, just so that we know that it's different if we get to the NVIDIA part. Oh yeah, I forgot to go through the spreadsheet. I'll throw this up here. I'll just leave it up here for a second. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can pause it right here to get all the details about what's going on. We're not going to worry. I'm not going to worry about redocumenting the price or, market cap or any of that stuff tonight because I kind of rambled on there at the beginning. So I'm just going to press on. So that is what, all the details about what you would need to actually mine it. The way I describe this is anything that's grayed out like this, gray text right here is not really needed in order to mine, but pretty much everything else is. Pertinent information for mining. So, all right, so let's go back over to simple mining. And if you look at the show more info, they've added a nice little button down there that has basically a breakdown of the basic configuration of the miner, XMR Stack, and the different parameters and stuff. So what we have to get first, they've got the default miner options in here. So the first thing that we have to get is currency. And the currency is going to be Kryptonite GPU. Slightly confusing because you would think that it would be Ryo or something, but I believe that this is going to work, that this is right. Then we have to go and get the pool. And in our case, we were using the miner rocks. Ryo.miner.rocks, and that is also in the spreadsheet. And you can see that I've already been using this for a little while. I've got a couple rig showing up down here. So just playing around with it. All right, so let's go ahead and throw that into Simple Mining. That's not right. I never copied it. I forgot to copy it. So if we go to the spreadsheet, we already have it over here. I'll just copy it from there. And I got that information from right here. Somewhere on here. Wait, start. Yeah, you have to click start. Right here is where I got the information from. And the only time you would, typically the only time you would use a payment ID is if you're trying to go to an exchange. If you're mining to an exchange might have to have a payment ID or else you might lose your funds that you try to send there. So keep that in mind. You'll need that information if you're mining to an exchange. Don't really recommend mining to an exchange, but I guess some people do. I've done it before, especially with Grin. And I think Beam, whenever they first came out, I believe I was mining to an exchange then too. So anyway, a little off topic there, but let's go back to Simple Mining. We're going to put this in the pool spot here. Probably have too many spaces in here. I'm going to pull that one out. And then the user, the U parameter is your address, your receiving address. Going to copy that. And I got that from the wallet, right? In this case, I'm using this one, even though I've got a U2 demo wallet down here. I'm actually using this address to mine to. Oh man, I did that last night too, or not last night. I did that sometime. Clicked off of it. Now you got to start over. I don't know how to recover it. I don't think you can. It'll just take a second. We'll go AMD YouTube. So y'all get to see this twice. All right, so I was on user, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there since I have it copied. Currency was CryptoNight _ GPU, I think. And then the pool and the port. I'll try to zoom up on this once I get it all in here so that you can see it a little bit better. I know it's kind of small on the screen there. Okay. I like that they made it to where you can put more information and slide this over, although with kryptonite type addresses, these super long ones, you actually need even more. And this is kind of weird. Why is there a... That doesn't look right. I must have grabbed something wrong because did y'all see that character in there? There's a / or backslash right here. I don't know where that came from. Oops. I'll get it. All right. Paste that. Yeah, that was so weird. There was like a / in there for some reason. So you gotta be careful, and we've discovered this before in the past. Whenever I'm copying from Excel, sometimes weird little things like that happen. So just keep that in mind. If you've got your receiving addresses stored in Excel and you don't pull it straight from your wallet, and you just got them documented in some way, just be sure that you kind of double check, you eyeball the string and make sure that there's no spaces in it and that there's no like weird characters like what we just saw with a / in there. So just keep that in mind. So for password, we're going to put, for this pool, we can actually name our rig. So we're going to use W equals, and then since this is simple mining, we can use the variable of $, lowercase RIG, capital NAME, which is rig name, and it'll actually replace that variable with your actual rig name from simple mining. So keep that in mind as well. I know I keep saying keep that in mind. It's important. All right. Let me get back over here. I'm going to zoom up on this a little bit. We're going to get into a little bit more the configuration and stuff. So just give me just a minute here. Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Sometimes my machine freaks out whenever I zoom up like that. So let's see here. Just watch. I think all that looks pretty good. And nothing's blocked on the screen, so I'm going to scroll down here and choose Add Group. Alright, so now we have a new group called Ryo AMD YouTube, and we can assign that to a rig now. Now this is with zero config, there's no overclock or nothing like that just yet, okay? So what I want to do is go to rig list. Okay, that rig did come back up, the Mustafar rig, this guy right here. So it is back up and running, it's actually mining CCX, like I was saying earlier, so that's good. We are going to assign it to, well, first what I'm going to do, because it does have overclock settings, it's in a group, overclock settings group. I'm going to remove it from that first, because I want it to get basic or zero overclock settings this first boot. Okay, so I'm going to unlink it from the group OC, and then it's going to need to reload. That's fine. So I'm going to click unlink there. So now it's not a member of the OC, any OC group, so it's going to be getting defaults, right? So then I'm going to put a check mark here. I'm going to assign it to group config. I'm going to go to group config, and then I'm going to assign it to the group that we created, which is Ryo _ AMD _ YouTube. And then I'm going to click reload. The miner is already in there. Although I'm discovering that they made a lot of changes and updates to simple mining since the last time I was in here really goofing around with it. Things look a little bit different whenever you SSH into the rig nowadays. I've been kind of messing around with HiveOS for many months now and not really doing a whole lot with simple mining. Whenever I was in there poking around today, I was like, oh wow, this is kind of new. What's up, Crypto Nuffy? Alright, so I'm going to look at the console real quick, just make sure it's coming up. It does look like it is. Although sometimes this rig acts kind of funny too on a reboot, so I might have to go out and actually hard reset it. Hey, thanks Crypto Nuffy, I appreciate it. Have a good night, man. So we're just waiting on this to either show me that it's working or not. So I'm just kind of waiting here. And it looks like it is working. Alright, so that's cool. Alright, so it's Mine Ryo with default you know, overclock settings and things. Well, basically no overclock, whatever the default is. And it looks like it's working at 6K, which if you remember, that's way more than the default what to mine was showing, right? See, it shows, even if you go to over here to GPU, and let's just uncheck, okay, we're on Mustafar here. That's the rig that we're using, so we'll just do like this to make it easier. I wish they had like a unselect all button. That would be pretty cool. Just unselect all, and then that way you can just choose the ones you want. All right, maybe it's on here, I don't know. All right, so if we go to calculate now, then clearly Ryo should be the only one that shows up, and it is. But if we look at the hash rate that they give us, you know, by default here, it's way wrong. we're at 6,000, right? So if we put in, was it 6,000 even, or it was pretty close, 6,050, okay? So if we put in 6,050 here at, let's check the actual voltage here, or the wattage at the wall. What rig is this? Mustafar? So at the wall, that's actually a lot. It's a little bit more than I thought. But again, we haven't done any tuning or anything. So it's actually getting, it's up around 1100 or so right here. So I'll call it 1150 just to be safe. So let's put in 1150 for the wattage. And then we will see if it'll let us. 1150. And calculate. And still not great. But that probably has a lot to do with the well, I don't know, you know, it's actually up today. I was going to say it was the market. And man, these rewards are down a lot too. But again, we haven't done any optimization at all. This is a lot of wattage actually. So, you know, if we get it down to where it should be, probably around, you know, 700 or something like that. Let's see what that does. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of profit there. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm actually, and I'm also thinking about last night, because last night we were on a 10 GPU rig. Was that last night or the first night? Whichever night it was. No, it was Monday night. On Monday night we were using my 10 GPU rig, and it was 100 here. So this is not bad. Okay, so that would make sense, because this is only 8. So it's still pretty good. All right. All right, so enough of that. Let's get into the actual optimization. So, you know, on HiveOS, we had to go into the miner configuration. Remember, let me get over there. I'll show you what we did. So if you go to flight sheets, look at our flight sheet for Ryo, and then go to edit, and then set up miner config. Right here, remember we did this config override, and we went through and modified all these settings, and we commended Ryo currency on this because this actually did give us like 30% better hash rate and less power and all that stuff. Is really cool. So these settings are awesome as far as my rig goes. These are solid for an NVIDIA rig. But it also has an AMD config override also. Different settings that you have to mess with in order to optimize, but it's similar. You know, it's a config file. So how do you do that in simple mining? Because you don't have a flight sheet like this in simple mining. If you want to get into like fine tuning and using config files in simple mining, it's a little bit more difficult than it is in HiveOS. And I did a video a long time ago on, it's actually still on my channel. I probably should take it off because it's not really relevant anymore. But it is the how to dual thread AMD GPUs using XMR Stack Miner and Simple Mining OS. But if you want to learn a little bit about remoting into your rig and configuring stuff and going through config files, this is a pretty good video for doing that. Even though it's kind of out of date because you don't have to do what's actually in the video anymore because it's all automatic inside of the, hey, what's up CDN Miner 100? It's all automatic inside of the miner itself. So they've developed a way of it knowing to go ahead and dual thread. So there you go. But check that video out if you want to learn a little bit more about that kind of stuff. All right, so let's get back into simple mining. And we are going to need to remote into the rig. But before we do that, let's go ahead and create our configuration sheet or our configuration file for this effort. So we are using AMD, and if you know anything about XMR Stack configuration files, let me show you what I think I ran this, hang on just a second. I ran this earlier so you can kind of see what files are created here. Make sure this looks clean. All right, so whenever you download XMR Stack and you run it, or you extract the files, and then you run XMR Stack once, it creates a bunch of these config files, right? You got config.txt, you got cpu.txt, which has your CPU settings, then you got NVIDIA.txt for NVIDIA type settings, and then you don't have AMD because on this computer that I ran it on, there's not AMD. But you can just create an AMD file in here if you needed to. But in our case, I already created one, and I created it from, where did I get it? I think I was talking to Ryo, and it seems like I got it from maybe another flight sheet that I had created previously. Maybe, I don't know. I don't remember, but I had to modify it slightly. So this is what it looks like over here. So I just created this amd.txt file, and this is what it looks like. I got this information definitely from Ryo though, for sure. So, but as you can see, this one is actually for AMD, my AMD 10 GPU rig. So we know that this rig that we're messing with right now is only 8 GPUs. So we should have 0 and it's 8 RX 580s, which is the same as the 10 GPU rig that we were using last night. Hope you're not too confused. But basically, I'm going to be using the same file. I'm just going to remove 8 and 9, so it'll be 0 through 7. That's this index right here is the number of GPU, right? So I'm going to delete these last 2 lines like that. And so now it's got 0 through 7. And if you didn't do that, you will get an error and the miner will not start because it can't find the GPUs that you've specified. So it'll just error out and not start. So I'm going to save this. So now we have properly formatted and proper numbers in the file. So where did we get this information from? Remember whenever we were talking about his configuration sheets in Reddit over here for AMD, right? So if we go here, RX 580, we click on the little reference link, and that takes us over here like this. So this is where, wait, I'm backwards. It's actually on this sheet right here. Okay, so right here you got 17. So if you look at what this column is XMR stack config, intensity, work size, mem chunk, and threads per GPU. And if you wanted to change the threads, the way that you would do that, you see here that he's got it listed as 1. But if you needed to change them, then what you would do is you would duplicate each line. So you would have 2 entries for GPU or index 0, 2 for index 1. It's just like the old days whenever you had to dual thread, manually. So it would look something like this. Like you would just keep doing this, copy that, and then add another exact line just like that. And so you would have 2 index 0s, then you would have 2 index 1s, and then 2 index 2s. But in this case, you don't really need to do that. I don't think he's even got one setting on here that has dual threading. Oh, there might be one. Let's go look. Yeah, see right here, he's got, for the Vega 56, he's got a dual thread right here. So I think that's how you have to do it. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Ryo Currency. I appreciate it. If I'm way out of line right there, let me know. All right, so let's get back to this. We're done over there. We're done with the file. We've got the file 0 through 7. Looks good to me. We saved it. Now what we have to do is get that file on the rig. What I use, and you Linux masters out there, don't kill me for this, but I use MOBA Xterm, which is a graphical user interface for SSH into rigs, and it's kind of like a graphical thing that's easy to use for noobs like me when it comes to remoting into the rigs. So this is what I use, and I've got saved up here. I have the rigs, you know, so I can remote into them pretty quickly. And we are dealing with Mustafar, right? So I'm going to get into this rig as root. And don't kill me either. I know I have my password saved. I know I shouldn't do that. All right, so this is what it looks like whenever you first SSH into a rig. And what we're going to try to do, or what we need to do, is we need to get that amd.txt file in a location that we will later reference in our miner configuration in Simple Mining. Now this is kind of, I would consider this a little bit advanced, so I'm probably, you know, some of you watching might be like, what is this guy doing? Just stay with me. Basically, we need to get a file onto the rig's, in this case it's a thumb drive, but onto the rig's drive, the same drive that is running Simple Mining. We need to get this amd.txt file onto the rig so that we can reference it to pull these settings into your miner configurations. I hope that makes sense. So that's what we are trying to do here. So thanks to Ubuntu and IllusionX in the chat for Simple Mining help. Today they kind of pointed me in this direction, you know, to give me an idea of what to do here. So that was a lot of help. Just want to give them a quick shout out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go up a couple of levels here, actually just one level, and I'm going to go into the home folder, and then here's where your miner folder is. And I think that it's really weird the way that Simple Mining works now. It's all these temporary directories and stuff like that. I think it actually like goes out and pulls the miner. I don't know if it does it every time, but used to it would store the miner. Oh, that's right. It's like the miners are zip files now, I think, or something. They're compressed in some way, and then it unzips them. Depending on which one you choose, it unzips it temporarily and throws it into a folder and runs it. It's kind of weird the way that's set up now. It's quite a bit different than the way I remember it back whenever I was really messing with it a lot. So this was kind of interesting. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling here. But I'm going to go to the home and the miner folder. I want to, just to have things kind of clean, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to right click and go new directory. I'm going to name it config. And then remember, in Linux, the capitalization matters. So remember that this is lowercase config. So that is going to be my folder name. Then I'm going to go into that folder, and this is where I want to put the amd.txt file. So I'm going to upload to current folder, and then you can see it's already got it selected because I did it earlier. So if I go up one level, let's see, I'm out here on the desktop. Where's my folder? Oh, here it is. Ryo Mining Demo folder. And then I'm going to double click on amd.txt because that's the file I want to upload. I'm going to double click on that. It's going to throw it up into that folder, right? Home miner config. Then if I wanted to check to make sure that it's right, I could just right click on it and choose open with default text editor. And then it'll look like this. This is the MOBA text editor, and this looks identical to the one that we modified, which, you know, it is the one that we modified. So this is it. So I'm going to close that. Then now we're about 50% through. So now we have the file on the drive, right? We might have to mess with the permissions in a minute. I think that it'll work without any modifications because it at least has it has read, I believe, for everybody. We might have to play with this in a minute. We'll see. So we're about 50% done with the actual configuration. So now that we know that this file is here and we've got it in this location, I'm just going to copy this. No, I won't, because I can't. Maybe I can. All right, so I'm going to minimize this. Leave that open. I'm going to go over here to the configuration. Right now this is running the Ryo AMD YouTube configuration. Remember, the one that we created. I'm going to go to group config. I'm going to go to configure that group. So I'm going to click on the little gear icon there. And then it's going to come up like this. And this is where we modified it earlier. Remember, we put in our own settings and things like that. Well, one of the settings that you can specify down here is AMD file, dash dash or tac tac AMD file. So the file, the capitalized file there is the location of the file on the rig, right? So if we come up here to the configuration, I like to throw it right before the no AMD cache. So I'm going to put tac tac or dash dash and then AMD, lowercase AMD, and then space, and then the location of the file, right? So it did let me copy that. So the location of the file on the rig is home, miner, config, and then remember the name of the file is amd.txt. And then there's a space in there, so we're good there. And I think that that is solid. Let me check the chat, see what's going on. Y'all are just chatting about all y'all's cool. Yeah, that's what I meant, Bitcoin Jake, thanks. Case sensitive, thanks. Sometimes I forget the actual word as I'm going through this, during the live stream. It's not always easy to remember all those terms. All right, so save this, and that should kick off. I think that's going to kick off a reload. Yeah, so that is going to reload the miner program. And then remember, it still doesn't have OC settings. We're just letting it rock with those optimized settings in the AMD config file. So let's go in here and see. Right here you can see that it is restarting down here at the bottom. It says stopping all mining processes, and now it's reloading again. So as long as we don't get an error, and then we see our, I don't know if there's really a way of telling if it's pulling the right, or pulling that information other than the fact that you're not going to get an error. I don't think that I don't know if it tells you down here somewhere like, hey, you're getting your config from amd.txt. I don't think it does. It will if there's something wrong with it. It'll tell you like, hey, this file is jacked up or something, right? So we'll see what this does. And this is XMR stack running on Linux, and so it takes a while to fire up. It's not the fastest thing in the world, especially when I think it mainly has to do with that no AMD cache setting. If you had it set to where you could throw, this is running from a USB, so there's no really location for it to put the cached information for I think it's got to do with the compiling of the, not compiling, that's probably the wrong word. What's the right word? Something to do with the drivers and all that stuff for the actual GPUs. I'm going to completely lose this. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically, because it's no AMD cache setting in there, it's going to be a little bit slower than usual. All right, so it looks like, yeah, recompiles, open, there you go. Ryo currency's on top of it. Yeah, and it actually says that in there. I just couldn't remember the terminology. All right, so it looks like it is working. We're getting accepted shares. It's pool logged in. It's all good. Let's go and check the hash rate real quick. Looks like it is 5.6. But it's currently pulling quite a lot of wattage. 1200. That's a lot for that rig. Probably going to blow a breaker here. All right, so let's go ahead and do a overclock settings for Ryo and the AMD, or I'm sorry, the Kryptonite GPU algorithm. So if we go to Group OC, I already have one in here. Right here, AMD CN GPU OC. And I have it set to core of 1430, memory is 1000, and it will run on that just fine, so don't freak out because it's like super low compared to what you're normally seeing. Undervolting I've got set to 950, I do have aggressive undervolting on. This is something that you might want to play with back and forth to see how it affects, you know, your rig and your hash rate and your hashes per watt and all that. Power stage is set to 3. I don't know if this is the most efficient, but it was working and the rig was up and running just fine and mining, so it was pretty efficient with that, so I just left it in there. So this is the GPU, or I'm sorry, the OC settings that group that I'm going to assign to the rig, and then we'll see what happens. So if we go back over to rig list, we can see it's getting 5.65 right now. Everybody document that. Let me put it over here in the chat here. 5.65 before OC. All right, so let's do a click, put the little check mark in there. Actions, we're going to go to group OC link, and we're going to choose AMD CN GPU OC, and then reload. We're also at 1200 watts too. So this is really fun. Yeah, thanks Shuby, appreciate it. Smash those likes. Yeah, a lot of people don't know like how the YouTube algorithms work. Now, I'm not an expert by no means, clearly, because it took me a year to get 1,000 subs, so I'm definitely not an expert on how the YouTube algorithm works. But I do know that the likes and dislikes help. The chat helps. Comments help a lot, apparently. So yeah, that it's look at it as an interaction, right? An interaction can actually help the channel. So sharing, you know, stuff like that, telling your friends about it, sharing the link to the video, that helps. All that stuff. So according to Ryo currency in the chat here, it's recompiling, and it actually says that somewhere on here, I believe. And that's why it was taking so long. Wow, we've been going an hour already. That was fast. That was really fast. For me, anyway. Probably for you guys, it was probably like, man, this guy will not shut up. Maybe try 1400 on the memory or on the core. I might. We'll see what this does first, and then we'll go from there. You want to look at something really, really, really scary? Ah, killing me. The one that's killing me the most is ETH. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe I'm looking at that number right now. I don't get emotional about it though. Just hold. You know how it is. This one's kind of like funny. XRP. Still firing up. Yeah, I've said this before too about simple mining. Sometimes it looks like they might have fixed this, but before, whenever you would restart a rig on XMR stack with simple mining, the timeout would actually happen and it would go orange and then red, even though it was still firing up. So you had people that were shutting the rig down or hard power cycling it, me initially, because it appeared as though it wasn't working even though it was. So it looks like they might have fixed the timeout to where now it doesn't do that. I hope it's working. This is a bad thing about doing this stuff live, is things like this that typically do take a while no matter what. You know, it's kind of tough to you know, fill in that time. But I'm glad you guys are just chatting over there, so it's all good. I probably should go look at this rig and just make sure it's not hung up or something. Oh, there it goes. Okay. It's doing stuff. Yeah, once you start seeing it, start applying the OC settings here, then that's usually a pretty good sign. You can see how it's changing the first GPU here, and then it should just walk down the line and change them all. I don't know the refresh interval of this little section right here, but you can see how it hit the first one already, GPU 0 up here. At least the core was changed. What's up, boss? Boss? I'm glad I'm not having to go without AC. You guys are crazy. Come on, rig. You can do it. I'm probably just being impatient, but it seems like nothing's happening. Well, I guess what we could do while we're waiting on that, we could go ahead and do the same thing for the NVIDIA rig. It's 88 degrees in this room that I'm in right now because I have rigs in here, but they're off right now, but it's still just kind of warm from before. So I'm sitting in 88 degrees. Yeah, it seems like this one's hung up. So what I'll do, let me just go and look at the rig, make sure that it looks normal. I don't have a monitor on it, but I usually can tell because the fans won't be spinning and there'll be, you know, some indications that it looks like something's wrong. So I will be right back. Give me a second. Yeah, so a couple of the GPUs were hung up. The fans weren't spinning on them, so they were hung up in some way. So I just power cycled it. So this should come back up now. But while we're waiting on that, we can go ahead and knock out the NVIDIA config file as well. It's basically the same steps as what we did for the AMD rig for Mustafar. We're going to do the same thing for Kessel. So let's go back to MOBA Xterm, and we'll go ahead and let's see the easiest way to do this. Probably just exit out of there. Probably going to exit out the whole prompt. No, there it goes. So we'll go to Kessel. Oh, you know what? Kessel's off. I need to turn it on first. It's going to get a little bit loud in here because of that. It's really close to, the rig is kind of close to my mic, my desk here, so it might be a little bit loud. All right, Bitcoin Jake, see you later, man. All right, so Kessel is up and running. It's actually mining Aeon. I threw it on whatever I had, in here built already. I usually don't. Kessel's usually not on simple mining. Usually it's on HiveOS. So I just switched it over, just for you guys, just so I could show how to, basically the steps for NVIDIA on simple mining. And we already have the group. I think, let's see here. Actually, we couldn't use the same group, but I'll show you the group that I created earlier. So we can't use this group because it's got information about AMD and stuff like that in there. Let's see. You know what we forgot to put on here too is no NVIDIA. We could have put no NVIDIA on there, and then it would just ignore it from that point, but you can see it actually up here, the no NVIDIA info, or the no NVIDIA parameter there. Anyway, getting off tangent here, off track. Let's see, so we go to Ryo. Yeah, this one right here is the one I was playing with earlier. So we'll just assign that. But you'll see, here's what it looks like. I'm just going to kind of go fast because we already went through the steps of creating this, but you can see that this one has a different parameter here. It's NVIDIA and then home miner config and then NVIDIA.txt. Same thing. If you click on more info down here, you can see right here it says NVIDIA file. So it's the same as, or NVIDIA and then file. File is where the file is actually at, right? So it looks the same as the AMD one. You just put it up here, and so we just have to remember that that's where we're going to put it. It's basically the same location on this as the previous rig. So let's go ahead and assign that group to the rig. and get a reboot in after we do that. Or a reload. I also need to get it off of the Aeon OC, so I'm going to unlink the OC, clean that up a little bit, and then that's going to reboot. And then we're going to need to go back into MOBA Xterm, go to the Kessel rig, which it might not be. Actually, I only reloaded the miners, so it basically stays up, right? It stays up and accessible. It's not a full reboot. And remember, now this is a totally different rig. So what we did earlier on the other rig is not going to be in this rig, right? So we have to actually go up a level, go back into home, and then into miner. And then you can see in here there's no config folder. There's a .config, but not a config folder. So we're going to right click, new directory, name it config, and then go into config, and then this is where we're going to put our nvidia.txt file, which I haven't showed you how to create it yet. Right here it is. I already have it created, and I just grabbed this from our last show last night, the configuration that Ryo or Ryo RU showed us on the live stream for NVIDIA, right? But if we go into the file, it just looks like this. And again, you go back to his Reddit entries and his testing and all those graphs and files that he's got over there, and that's where this information comes from. All right, so that's what the file looks like. And we already have it in place, and then we also already have it in the simple mining miner config, right? So if we go back to group config, go to the one, actually it's up here at the top, the one that's assigned, which is this one right here. So we go to miner options, miner config, group config, and again, there it is right here where it says NVIDIA. Let's see if I can get it all in one. Here we go. So it looks like that. NVIDIA home miner config NVIDIA TXT. So now it is going to, I don't know why that one was restarting. It might have errored out or something. It looks like it crashed, possibly. This one up here. This one looks like it's good. Let's go into the console here, see what's up. So it looks like the hash rate is 6,700. I don't know, Ryo, is that good? Because some of the info I was seeing on some of your posts over here on Reddit and stuff, it seemed like there was more than that. Let me know if that's a pretty decent. I mean, we can go to the calculators and stuff, I guess, and throw it in there. What do we have? We had 6,700 at 554 watts. The wattage is really low. I like that. Don't have any OC yet though. Let me throw the OC on there. I thought I did that. Was I talking about it and then I just never did it? So the OC here is, you can see it down here, 120 on the core, 0 on the memory, because remember this CN GPU doesn't use memory at all, and then the power limit is 84. So that's the OC that I'm going to assign to that rig. And it's going to have to reload the miner again real quick. Yeah, I thought we had it up there. I don't remember though. I don't remember exactly what it was. Need to do a little bit better documentation during the streams here if we're gonna document stuff like that. I think this rig just might be restarting again because I did 2 configs. I did the OC and the group assignment, so maybe that's why it's restarting again. And it takes forever, so. So it looks like this one is actually back up and running. Yeah, it's only at 573 watts. That's really low. And 7K. So let's see here. So if we go to calculator here, 7,000. So yeah, getting 90 a day. I like that. Right now it equates to $2.70 USD, which I don't really worry about that too much. And I know this is down here, but I think that this is in beta here, this information, this page, because whenever I put in my address, it does not seem to work very well. It finds like a pool from a long time ago that I mined to. I think the official pool eventually will show up. Yeah, official, and that's it. It won't show the new pool that I'm on right now. I think it's only because it's beta. Probably just something that they need to work on there. All right, so we are back up. Everything looks good there. Let me go and look at the pool, see what's going on the pool. I always forget where to go. Is it just down here? No. No. I can just go back over here. Yeah, that's right. Alright, so that's my address, I believe, still. So I did a lookup. You can see we've been playing around. So SavageMine Kessel is the only one that's up right now, which makes sense. The other one says it's been down for 23 minutes. So maybe there is something wrong with it. I'm not going to troubleshoot it right now because I'm not going to be mining Ryo with it. I have to get that rig back on CCX because this is a co-owned rig. So let me get it back over there. Get the OC back as well. I know it's named CNR, but that's okay. All right, so that is, what do you want me to do? Press logo? What logo? What are we talking about? I just now saw that, so I could be like way behind where you're at. were you talking about over here? All right, cool. Yeah, I just saw it, so sorry about that. So we got hash rate coming into the pool. Got a little bit built up, a little bit of balance built up here. I probably should modify this to a lot less than 50 so I can actually get a payout. Let's click there, do that. Let's go 10. I don't know if you can go as low as 10. Saved successfully. I pick out misspellings pretty easy. Alright, so it says it failed. It hates me. How did it fail? Come on. I wonder if it's failing because I'm doing it on Brave. I don't know. I see cars back there. Better be right. Oh, so I'd already clicked save. All right, so I'm good. All right, let's go back to start. All right, so yeah, now it's set to 10. So I might get a payout here at some point. All right, cool. All right, so I think that is going to do it for me tonight. I think that rig is actually down. There it goes. No, yeah. I think I'm going to have to go and hard power cycle it again. A little finicky tonight. Not wanting to play nice. So I think that's it, man. We covered a lot. This was an hour. This is an hour and a half long. We covered a lot, though. I need to get some timestamps in all these long videos. I need to figure out how to do that. I mean, I know how, but I don't know how to do it manually. Yeah, I guess I can watch the video at fast speed and go through it and do it that way, probably. I'll figure that out. I'll try to get some timestamps in there and get all the links and stuff in the video. Probably tomorrow, though. Probably won't be tonight. So, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys hanging out. This was awesome. This was like a lot of info. We covered a lot, which I think is good. And well, it says 576. It's probably, let me look at the meter here real quick. I think it's pretty close. It says 658. Right there. So yeah, it's a little bit lower, 100 watts off, I guess. Yeah, 555 would be really low. That would be awesome. All right, so that's going to do it for me. I will see you guys tomorrow night, same time, probably 9:30. I've been meaning to do there's another video that I want to do, but I probably won't be able to get to it tomorrow either. I'll probably do another Ryo video. I don't know what it'll be on just yet. Maybe some wallet stuff, because tonight we actually covered two things. We covered simple mining and AMD, and simple mining and NVIDIA, and then how to do the NVIDIA.txt file and the AMD.txt file on the rig and get it over to the rig and all that stuff. So that's kind of cool. I think we covered a lot. This was a lot of information. Hopefully it wasn't too advanced for normal folks. I don't think so. I think I went slow enough to where we could probably figure that out. So thanks to Ryo Currency for hanging out in here and answering all y'all's questions and talking about overclocks, because he's like a master at that stuff. That's awesome. Be sure to follow him on Twitter and check out his Reddit and all that stuff like we were talking about tonight. So be sure to do that as well. I appreciate it. I will see you guys next time. I'll see y'all tomorrow night. Stay savage.